Market Mantra. Market Mantra. Market Mantra. Market Mantra. Market Mantra. Market Mantra.
Namaskar and welcome to this Thursday edition of Market Mantra, the program in which we give you a complete update on the economic news of the day. Well, I'm Lalima Aneja Dang and with me is my co-anchor in Hindi, Harsh Ranjan.
नमस्कार, हाजिर हैं मार्केट मंत्र के एक और ताजा अंक के साथ। इस कार्यक्रम में हम देश विदेश की आर्थिक खबरों का जायजा लेते हैं, साथ ही बात करते हैं शेयर मार्केट्स की। और आज हमारे साथ स्टूडियो में उपलब्ध हैं बिजनेस स्टैंडर्ड के एडिटोरियल डायरेक्टर ए.के. भट्टाचार्य। ए.के. भी आपका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है आकाशवाणी।
नमस्कार।
Now let's begin today's edition with the headlines in English.
Yes, here we go. Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, chaired by the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, has approved fair and remunerative price (FRP) of sugarcane for season 2023-24. Southwest monsoon is likely to advance into remaining parts of the country during the next 2 days, said India Meteorological Department, and markets around the world were in mixed.
प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी की अध्यक्षता में हुई मंत्रिमंडल की बैठक में चालू वित्त वर्ष के लिए गन्ने की दर प्रति क्विंटल 315 रुपये निर्धारित की गई। मौसम विभाग के अनुसार दक्षिण पश्चिम मानसून अगले 2 दिनों में देश के बाकी हिस्सों में पहुंचेगा और अंतर्राष्ट्रीय शेयर बाजारों में आज मिला जुला रुख चल रहा है।
The Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has approved fair and remunerative price (FRP) of sugarcane for sugar season 2023-24, that's October to September, at 315 rupees per quintal for a basic recovery rate of 10.25%. The move will benefit 5 crore sugarcane farmers and the dependents, as well as 5 lakh workers employed in the sugar mills and related ancillary activities. Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Singh Thakur said that it is the highest ever fair and remunerative price for sugarcane farmers. Mr. Bhattacharya, what is the difference primarily between a fair and remunerative price and
price?
Well, the fair and remunerative price is the price that the government mandates for the sugar mills, that they must pay that minimum price to the farmers. Now, why it is not called a minimum support price?
MSP, yes.
That is because the government does not pay the difference between the price which the mills recover out of those sugarcane bought and purchased. So the government does not come into the picture in terms of subsidies. Whereas in the minimum support price for kharif crops, there is a minimum support price and then there is also an issue price. So the difference is borne by the government. In the case of the sugar industry, there is no subsidy element, which is a good thing, because subsidies are supposed to be even in a welfarist economy a bad thing, because it's a drain on government resources. So what has happened in the case of sugar is that this is the minimum price that the sugar mills will have to pay to these 50 million farmers who grow sugarcane in this country, and they are across the country. In a sense, they are largely in the Uttar Pradesh, in Maharashtra, and this is an increase which is raised, taken to the highest level, as the minister rightly pointed out. But if you look at the historical increases, you will see that last year the increase was by 15 rupees. This year it is increased by 10 rupees. Now, which means that last year the increase was 5%, this year it is 3%, which is good news for the sugar mills. Even at this price increase, the sugar mills are always a little complaining, oh God, we have to pay this higher price. But in my view, it's a striking middle path. Instead of giving a raise of by 5%, the government has managed to secure a lower increase so that the sugar mills don't have to give a unusually huge increase to the farmers for the sugarcane that they grow. The sugar mills' financial position is not very good. Many of them are not doing well. So, as I said, the government has struck a middle path by ensuring the interest of those 50 million farmers, at the same time making sure that the sugar mill are also, their interests are subserved. Along with, remember, there are about 5 lakh workers associated with the sugar mills. So they also their jobs need to be kept. So as I said in the beginning, it's striking a middle path, a decent bargain that has been struck. So the sugar economy, as you know, is a large economy, and also it's a cooperative sector economy in many states like Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh doesn't see so much of cooperative sector sugar mills there. So on the whole, I would say that the job has been done.
And it's a win-win for all.
To some extent, yes, the farmers would have expected more all the time, but the sugar mills would have not liked this to be raised to be even by a higher margin like last year. So as I said, it's striking a middle path.
बिल्कुल, ये बीच का एक रास्ता अपनाया सरकार ने ताकि किसानों को भी रकम मिले, और 315 रुपए प्रति क्विंटल अब तक की सबसे ऊंची कीमत। एक भी गन्ना किसानों की एक और शिकायत हमेशा से रहती है कि चीनी मिल वाले जो होते हैं गन्ना तो खरीदते हैं, पेमेंट को लेकर वो बाद में करते हैं, एक तरीके से उधारी ये होती है। सरकार ने इसको भी लेकर दबाव डाला है पिछली बार। अभी क्या स्थिति है?
अभी भी समस्या पूरी तरह से इसका समाधान नहीं हुआ है। सरकार ने काफी स्कीम्स की ऐलान भी किया है, बहुत सारे स्कीम्स ने काफी काम किया है, और इसका जो एक लॉन्ग टर्म सोल्यूशन जो है, जो महाराष्ट्र में शुगर मिल्स एंड शुगर केन ग्रोवर्स की जो है, वो की जो कोऑपरेटिव सेक्टर में अगर शुगर केन ग्रोवर्स की उनकी कोऑपरेटिव शुगर मिल्स में बनी जाए, तो वो मैं समझता हूं कि एक सस्टेनेबल लॉन्ग टर्म सोल्यूशन है। और इस वक्त जो शुगर मिल्स की जो अवस्था जो है वो ऐसी है कि शायद अगर और भी ज्यादा दाम बढ़ाया जाए तो उनमें जो फाइनेंशियल स्टेबिलिटी आ सकती है। पर आपको ये भी मैं आपको याद दिला दूं कि पिछले 3 सालों में शुगर मिल्स को मोलासिस की प्रोसेसिंग करने की अनुमति दी गई थी। उससे उनका जो रिकवरी रेट जो है वो पहले से ज्यादा है, पर कई सारे ऐसे मिले उन्होंने ये इस फायदे का पूरा फायदा नहीं लिया, और उन्होंने जो प्रोसेसिंग जो प्लांट लगाने का जरूरत होता है, मोलासेस लेंगे तो उससे जो आप उसकी जो एडिबल जो अल्कोहल जो बनते हैं, इंडस्ट्रियल अल्कोहल बनाने का या पोर्टेबल अल्कोहल भी बनता है उससे काफी रिकवरी अच्छी होती है, फाइनेंशियल कंडीशन शुगर मिल्स की अच्छी हो जाती है। पर बहुत सारे ऐसे मिल्स से उन्होंने ये इन्वेस्टमेंट नहीं किया है। पर ये दोनों चीजों से, एक तो रिकवरी का एक जो बहुत सारे स्कीम्स हैं उसको लागू करना, और दूसरा ये है कि जो शुगर मिल्स की जो एक इन्वेस्टमेंट की जो एक नई एक धारा है कि वो मोलासेस को प्रोसेस करने की जो अनुमति मिली है, और उसमें प्रोजेक्ट फाइनेंस भी काफी मिला है शुगर मिल्स को कि उसमें खर्चा करें, तो उसका वो भी एक ऑन द गो स्कीम है, चल रही है।
बिल्कुल। और मौसम के लिए अच्छी खबर है, क्योंकि मौसम विभाग ने कहा है कि दक्षिण पश्चिम मानसून अगले 2 दिनों में देश के बाकी हिस्सों में पहुंच जाएगा। मौसम विभाग ने कहा कि अगले 2 दिनों में दक्षिण पश्चिम क्षेत्र में और 3 दिनों में पश्चिमी तटीय क्षेत्रों में मानसून की स्थिति सक्रिय रहेगी। मौसम विभाग ने आज हिमाचल प्रदेश, हरियाणा, कोंकण और गुजरात में तेज से अत्यधिक वर्षा होने का अनुमान व्यक्त किया है। गोवा और मध्य महाराष्ट्र के घाट क्षेत्रों, पश्चिम बंगाल और सिक्किम के हिमालयी क्षेत्रों, असम, मेघालय और अरुणाचल प्रदेश में अगले 5 दिनों में तेज से अत्यधिक तेज वर्षा होने की संभावना है।
Well, monsoon has always been very instrumental in our economy. Where do you see this going? Because they always predict that it's going to be a good monsoon, but sometimes it goes
this time there was some worry about the delay. It was delayed. The onset was delayed. The onset in Kerala was delayed by a week. Then onset in the western region, particularly the Maharashtra region, was delayed quite substantially actually. As a matter of fact, the monsoon broke in Delhi, which is the normal date is around 27, 28, and it broke the same day in Mumbai. So there was the problem about the monsoon not being, meeting its scheduled progress. Now, this did cause some delays in the sowing season. A lot of farmers of different crops delayed their sowing patterns. But I don't think the damage has been huge because, as the IMD pointed out, that the monsoon has virtually covered the whole country. Remember that covering Punjab and Haryana is not that critical. Because Punjab and Haryana is well irrigated.
Yes.
So they don't really depend on the monsoon rains. But Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Gujarat, they all depend a lot more than Punjab and Haryana on the monsoons. And the kharif crops are also largely on paddy. So the paddy requirement in the country, if you look at the granaries right now, the paddy production needs to be boosted a bit because you have a PDS scheme which you have to sustain.
Yes.
And remember, the PDS scheme is now free. There is, the government has announced that the grains to be supplied under PDS will be free. So you need your granary, the buffer stock in full flow. There is no concern, no need for any alarm, but you need to have the monsoon spread because it is only the beginning. Now you also have to see July, you have to see August, you have to see September. And in these 4 months, 70% of India's total rainfall comes in these 4 months. So it's very critical. Water harvesting is critical. Water storage is critical. Fortunately, this year, our storage, the pump storages are in very good condition. So I don't see any cause for alarm, but you have to keep an eye on it, that even if after the whole country is covered by the monsoon, how it spreads and how it sustains itself for the remaining 3 months, and whether El Nino strikes its blow against this sustained monsoon rains in the next 3 months.
El Nino, yes, that's a very important factor in the monsoon pattern and the climate change pattern here also in India. Well, let's move on to the US markets. The Nasdaq managed a small gain on Wednesday with support from mega cap stocks, while the S&P 500 and the Dow closed lower after US Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell. They signaled more rate hikes and said he did not see inflation falling to the central bank's target rate this year or next year. At a European Central Bank forum on Wednesday, Powell also said the Fed is likely to raise rates further and did not rule out a boost at the next policy meeting scheduled for late July. Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 0.22%, S&P down 0.04%, Nasdaq Composite climbs 0.27%. U.S. economies are very central to the economy of the world. How it functions affects the entire world. What is your view about, what is your speculation about the Fed rates rising further?
I think there will be at least 2 more increases by the U.S. Fed. There are clear indications that have been given by Jerome Powell on the need to increase the rates further in at least 2 installments. What the U.S. Fed has done is declared a pause for the moment. The last monetary policy review, the US Fed declared a pause, and this was essentially to prevent any further scare in the market, because you will remember that in about last 1 year, the US Fed had raised the interest rates by 5 percentage points, and this was the steepest increase over a period of over a period of just 12 months. Now, as a result of which, the bank's financial health, because they hold many of these U.S. Treasury bills in their account, Now, obviously their valuation took a hit, and many of the banks had to close down and shut down.
Three of them at
least. And there was some sort of a chain effect on some of the European banks. So the Fed has taken a very calculated call and decided to call a halt to these rate increases. But at the same time, their battle against inflation is not yet over. So inflation is still at around 4.5%, 5%. They want to bring it down to 2%. Remember, the difference between the US rates, the 2% target of current rate, they are being 5%, and in India, the target is 4%. We are at 4.5%. So the Indian government, the Reserve Bank of India's tasks at hand are far less formidable than the task at hand for the US Fed.
Yeah, that's a nice comparative study you gave of the targets of inflation. Yes.
Let's move on to सोना चांदी. MCX में आज अगस्त अनुबंध के लिए सोने की कीमतों में 27 रुपए की गिरावट आई. 10 ग्राम सोने की कीमत 58,080 रुपए रही. चांदी की कीमत भी 266 रुपए की गिरावट के साथ प्रति किलो 69,075 रुपए रही. अंतर्राष्ट्रीय बाजारों में सोने की कीमत प्रति आउंस $1,913.70 पर ट्रेड कर रहा है और चांदी की कीमत प्रति आउंस $22.98 रही है. और रुपए की बात करें विदेशी मुद्रा बाजार में आज रुपए की कीमत प्रति डॉलर 82 रुपए 5 पैसे रही. दिन के कारोबार के समय इंडेक्स 102.98 पर था.
Well, moving on, Reserve Bank of India has informed that the gross non-performing assets GNPA ratio of scheduled commercial banks has fallen to a 10-year low of 3.9% in March 2023, and net non-performing assets NNPA ratio declined to 1%. RBI released its financial stability report today. As per the report, scheduled commercial banks bolstered their capital base with capital to risk-weighted assets ratio at historical high of 17.1% and common equity tier 1 capital ratio at 13.9% in March 2023. Report says Indian economy presents a picture of resilience supported by strong macroeconomic fundamentals, sustained growth momentum, moderating inflation, narrowing current account deficit, and rising foreign exchange reserves. Ongoing fiscal consolidation and robust financial system are setting the economy on a path of sustained growth, it added. Well, lots of data here, but Mr. Bhattacharya, broadly speaking, the fact that the NPAs are now down 10-year low of 3.9%, does it boost investor confidence and the citizens' confidence in investing within their own country?
Certainly, what do the banks do? Banks are those agencies that provide money which acts as a lubricant for economic activities. Now, if banks are themselves not in good financial health, then this basic function of keeping the economy lubricated, that takes a hit. Now, what we are seeing right now is that from the days of the twin balance sheet problem of the banking sector being in deep trouble and the corporate sector in deep debt, now today you are seeing a deleveraging of sorts where the banks have actually seen their non-performing assets. What are these non-performing assets? These are loans that have gone bad. They cannot be recovered at all. So now these are, and let me delve into the gross performing assets and the net non-performing assets.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, so the gross non-performing asset is 3.9%, which means that this loans have not been provided for by the banking system. Now, these are the total amount which has not been provided for, and yet they may turn bad. Now, the important figure is to be seen is what is the net non-performing asset. Now, that has come down to 1%. In other words, if you do the 3.9 and 1%, which means around 2.9% of the banking sector's loans have been provided for, which means the actual hit to the banking system will be only to the tune of 1%. Now that is something which is really cause for some comfort and definitely will allow the banking sector to undertake their tasks of providing capital, provided loans to the various segments and sectors of the economy. There's another indicator which is what is the capital adequacy, which means how much capital does the banks do the banks have. Now that capital is a very important indicator, because without that base of the capital, these banks cannot give loans. Now if you see how the capital adequacy ratio is now around 17%, and if you take the tier 1, which is the equity capital, which is around 14%. Now this means that the bank's ability to lend is actually getting enhanced. So the point that I made in the beginning, that the banks need to remain healthy, they need to keep their bad loans down, and in addition, they need to keep their ability to lend more intact. So I think we are seeing, we are in the pink of health kind of a situation for the banking sector. Important thing is how do you rein in the possible challenges that will emerge because of the net interest income of the banks coming under some sort of a squeeze. Because remember, when the interest rates go up, which they have gone up, the deposit rates will also go up, and deposit rates of the banks have already gone up. So what has happened in the last few quarters is that margin of bank, the net interest margin, which is what contributes to their profit, that has come under squeeze, because people who are depositing, you and I, they're also expecting the deposit rate of the bank, the fixed deposit bank, should go up. Now when they go up, their income comes down. Yeah. So that is one challenge of squeeze on their net interest margin. That is something to be kept in mind. And the second is the sharp rise in the retail loans. Now that has gone up, and when unsecured retail loans go up, then there is always a danger that whether those retail loans remain safe or they become delinquent. Now these are the two areas that the banking sector needs to be mindful of, and I'm sure the Reserve Bank of India as a regulator is taking note of these developments, and things will not be allowed to go out of control at all.
And although people may lament, especially senior citizens who depend a lot on FDs at 7%, now we are still among the world's largest interest paying more on FDs.
Absolutely.
Compared to other countries.
I think among the larger, the major, the better economies, we are right up there. The cost of money for especially the senior citizens is something that provides a lot of comfort to a large segment of Indian citizens.
एक कभी हम आम श्रोताओं को समझाने के लिए भी कई बार बात करते हैं। एनपीए की हमने बात कर ली, नॉन परफॉर्मिंग एसेट। ये बताना जरूरी है कि एनपीए कहते किसे हैं, नॉर्म्स क्या होता है। अगर कोई बैंक लोन देता है, जहां तक मेरी समझ है, और लोन के प्रिंसिपल या इंटरेस्ट अगर 3 महीने 90 डेज 90 दिन तक नहीं आता है, तो उसको एनपीए कैटेगरी में डाल दिया जाता है। इसे थोड़ा आप डिटेल में समझें।
इसमें देखिए दो चीज होती हैं। एक तो ये है कि जो बैंकिंग व्यवस्था में जब लोन दी जाती है, वो मान लीजिए एक बैंक आपको लोन दे रहा है, तो जो ही वो लोन देना शुरू करता है, तो वो मॉनिटर ये होता है कि वो बैंक की जो इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट्स जो आने थे टाइमली आ रही हैं नहीं। तो अगर मान लीजिए जो इंटरेस्ट पहले महीने में आने थे, वो अगर नहीं आए, तो वो दूसरे महीने में उसको पोस्टपोन किया जाएगा। पर जो ही एक डिले होता है, उसको बैंकिंग व्यवस्था एक स्पेशल मेंशन अकाउंट के नाम में कहलाती है। वो स्पेशल मेंशन अकाउंट 1 होता है, स्पेशल मेंशन अकाउंट 2 होता है, और स्पेशल मेंशन अकाउंट 3 होता है। जब SMA 3 में पहुंचता है, वो 90 दिन में पहुंच जाता है जी। तो ज्यों ही आप 90 दिन पहुंचते हैं, बैंक की शक्ति ये है कि वो को डिक्लेयर करना पड़ता है रिजर्व बैंक को कि ये मेरा जो लोन जो है, जिसको मैं अभी तक एसेट कह रहा था, वो अब वो एसेट नहीं रहा, बल्कि वो मेरा लॉस बन गया है, मैं उसको रिकवर नहीं कर सकता है। अगर मैं रिकवर करूंगा तो उसमें प्रोविजनिंग होगी, उसमें सेटलमेंट होगा, राइट ऑफ होगा। तो ये जो नॉन परफॉर्मिंग एसेट एक ऐसा एक इंडिकेटर है, वो बैंकिंग व्यवस्था का जो वर्तमान का स्थिति और भविष्य का जो स्थिति कैसी हो सकती है, उसको दर्शाता है।
क्या कारण होते हैं बैंकों के एनपीए बढ़ने के?
देखिए, अगर आप लोन दे रहे हैं, अगर लोन देने में थोड़ी बहुत जिसे कहते हैं इरेशनल एक्सुबरेंस हो जाती है, अगर कोई बिना प्रॉपर इवैल्यूएशन से लोन दिया जाता है, उससे नॉन परफॉर्मिंग एसेट बढ़ती है। अगर मान लीजिए अगर कोई ऐसे कोई सेक्टर में जहां पे अनसिक्योर्ड लोन जो शेयर जो बढ़ जाती है, जैसे मैंने कहा अभी रिटेल सेक्टर में जो काफी अनसिक्योर्ड लोन जाती हैं, उसमें कोई कोलैटरल गारंटीज नहीं होती, उसमें आपकी प्रॉब्लम समस्या आती है। और तीसरी बात यह है कि सेक्टरल प्रॉब्लम होती है। मान लीजिए पिछले कई सालों को पहले आपने देखा होगा जो स्टील सेक्टर में एक ग्लोबल सरप्लस आ गई थी, स्टील कंपनियों की जो उन्होंने लोन लिया था, स्टील बना रहे हैं पर उनको कोई प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी नहीं आ रही है और उनकी जो लोन वापस करने की जो क्षमता है वो नहीं है। तो ये बहुत सारे ऐसे 3 प्रधान कारण हैं जिसके लिए एक बैंकिंग व्यवस्था में एनपीए बढ़ सकती है। और इस एनपीए को घटाने के लिए रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया को, रेगुलेटर को, डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ फाइनेंशियल सर्विसेज, सरकार की जो है, क्योंकि काफी बैंक की करीबन 50 से 55% की जो हमारी बैंकिंग व्यवस्था है वो स्टेट ओन्ड बैंकिंग व्यवस्था है, वो सरकारी बैंक्स हैं, तो इसलिए सरकार को भी काफी नजर डालना पड़ता है।
There have been reforms by the government like merger of banks and recapitalization. That has also led to this coming out of NPA.
That has led to the strengthening of the bank's equity base. That has led to the strengthening of the bank's management repertoire. There was a time when till about 3 years ago there used to be around 25 banks. Now there are only 12 or 13 banks. So when you have fewer banks but stronger balance sheet, then the ability to deal with those sectoral problems or non-payment of loans or sudden risks that emerge. So the banking sector can address those challenges a little more comfortably.
साथ ही जो स्ट्रेस्ड कंपनियां हैं, अगर उन्होंने कोई लोन ले रखा है तो ये भी व्यवस्था की गई है कि वो उनको कोई दूसरी संस्थाएं लिवरेज खरीद सकें।
वो इंसॉल्वेंसी एंड बैंक्रप्सी कोड जो है वो 2016 में जो आई, उसका प्रधान काम यही है कि अगर मान लीजिए अगर कोई लोन वापस नहीं हुआ तो बैंक क्या कर सकती है कि बैंक अगर देखे कि आप वो लोन वापस नहीं दे रहे हैं, वो बैंक का अधिकार है कि वो इंसॉल्वेंसी एंड बैंक्रप्सी कोड के अंतर्गत वो जाकर नेशनल कंपनी लॉ ट्राइब्यूनल को बोल सकता है कि ये कंपनी मेरी क्लाइंट है और उन्होंने मेरा पैसा वापस नहीं दिया है।
एनसीएलटी
नेशनल कंपनी लॉ ट्राइब्यूनल इमीडिएटली उसको केस को लेती है, उस कंपनी को सुधारने की कोशिश करती है और बैंकों की जो ड्यूज जो हैं उसको निकालने की एक व्यवस्था करती है। और अभी तक इंसॉल्वेंसी बैंक्रप्सी कोड का काम चालू है। बहुत सारे और भी काफी प्रावधान है। रिजर्व बैंक ऑफ इंडिया ने एक स्कीम चालू किया जिसके अंदर बैंकों को भी अपने आप एक डायरेक्ट नेगोशिएशन करके बायलैटरल नेगोशिएशन से वो लोन की वापसी कैसे हो जिससे कि एनपीए ना बढ़े, वो उसका भी व्यवस्था अब चालू हो गया है।
और यही वजह है कि अब बैंकों का जो एनपीए है वो काफी कम हो गया है, जो कि अर्थव्यवस्था के फ्रंट पर एक अच्छी खबर।
Right, let's move on to oil now. Well, oil steadies after big drop in U.S. stockpiles boosts optimism. As per EIA, crude inventories fall by 9.6 million barrels last week. In intraday trade, Brent crude was trading at $74.26 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate crude price was at $69.84 per barrel when reports last came in.
अब वक्त खत्म हो रहा है। आज के मार्केट मंत्रा में इतना ही। AK भट्टाचार्य आप स्टूडियो आए, हमसे बातचीत की और बहुत चीजों को समझाया आपने, आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया।
नमस्कार
जी, much thanks. Well friends, before we close, here's a reminder of the headlines. Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs chaired by the Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi has approved fair and remunerative price FRP of sugarcane for season 2023-24. Southwest monsoon is likely to advance into remaining parts of the country during the next 2 days, said India Meteorological Department. And markets around the world were in mixed. Well, that's all we have for you in this edition of Market Mantra. This is myself, Lalema Aneja Dang, and my co-anchor Harsh Ranjan signing off. Namaskar.
नमस्कार।
Market Mantra.